Hey guys, it's Noble here doing something a little bit new for this channel, which is a preview for an up-and-coming real-life Grand Prix. We've got the German Grand Prix of 2013 coming up this weekend. I fancy doing a little preview to talk about the race around the Nürburgring circuit. And yeah, in the background will be just some pictures and the odd video of some stuff from the British Grand Prix last weekend, which I was lucky enough to go to. I do apologise for the poor quality of some of the images and the videos that were taken with they were done with a pretty old camera and my phone too, but thought at least try and get some content from the weekend and thought why not use it in this video. But anyway, into the chat regarding the race, and of course the big talking point ahead of the German Grand Prix, even more so than usual, is the tyres. Obviously what happened at Silverstone was a bit of a farce with, I think it was about 5 or possibly even 6 delaminations of the tyres, especially the left rear, which seemed to be causing most people the most amount of trouble. Yeah, Pirelli saying this is their least experienced track on the calendar in terms of sort of previous racing around it. Obviously, of course, they've only raced around here once before in 2011. So, yeah, the teams will have to be doing a lot of testing on what are going to be a new set of actual compound or like making up of the tyres, which I'll go into in a bit more detail in a little bit. But yeah, the tyres we've got for this weekend will be the medium and soft compounds, which is the same as 2011, but the compounds this season are a step softer than previous years, and Pirelli expecting around a 1 second lap time difference. Yeah, the tyre compounds, or the structure of the tyres, are a little bit different after what happened from Silverstone. We've now got Kevlar belt tyres rather than steel, which, as far as I can work out, is good news for teams that are hard on their tyres in what were the previous races this season, so Red Bull and Mercedes, due to the reduced tyre temperatures, especially on the rears. As I've read, that they operate around 10 degrees cooler. So yeah, people who keep up to date with the technical side of F1 will know that Mercedes are usually the ones killing their rear tyres by overheating them, and Red Bull to an extent have been struggling with that as well, so they're bound to be helped by this. But on the flip side of that, we've got, well, it means bad news for Lotus and Ferrari and to an extent Force India, who actually the teams who originally objected to a change in the tyres a few races earlier when it was brought up. But yeah, their tyre conservation attribute could be nullified due to the change in the tyres and the way they work, so it will be interesting to keep an eye on that. But the weather for the German Grand Prix, we're looking like another wet Friday for the third race in a row, I think it is. So any dry running they may be able to squeeze in either on the Saturday or possibly on Friday, depending on when the rain arrives or leaves the circuit, will be pretty critical to understanding what the teams want to be doing in terms of which compounds they want to save and use on the Sunday for the race. Silverstone saw a split in that regard between the two top teams of the weekend, Red Bull and Mercedes, as Red Bull looked to save the option tyre during quali, whilst Mercedes ran all 3 sessions of quali on the option tyre, saving the primes for the race. Previous years and events have seen the top teams sort of trying to get through Q1 on the prime and doing the rest of the 2 qualifying sessions on options, and obviously doing that Q1 on prime gives them the potential to save a set of options for the race, but that doesn't seem to be the case so much this season, especially for Mercedes, who, obviously being harder on their tyres, are looking to save the prime tyre especially to help them get through the race with as few pit stops as possible. But the rest of the weekend in terms of the weather is looking fine, very, very similar to Silverstone. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether the on-track action is similar to Silverstone. We'll have to wait and see, but it's almost a given that Mercedes and Red Bull will be the favourites for pole on Saturday, or sort of fighting between themselves for pole. Yeah, we've got Lewis Hamilton, who won the 2011 race ahead of Alonso, and Mark Webber finishing quite a bit ahead of Sebastian Vettel, actually, who had a pretty torrid time in 2011. I remember he made quite a few mistakes, so again, like Silverstone, a good chance for Webber to try and beat Sebastian Vettel around the racetrack, and looking good for Hamilton as well in a good car. And it'll be interesting to see what Rosberg can do around his home circuit in a pretty competitive car. But yeah, the two going to be, Red Bull and Mercedes, going to be closely matched in the race, I'd imagine. I'm personally not expecting much from Ferrari and Lotus, although not completely ruling them out. But yeah, at least on the Saturday, due to those teams preferring more heated conditions to get the tyres working. But they're always a threat on Sunday due to the way the strategies seem to be being made on the fly during the race. It's always interesting, seeing if Lotus and Ferrari maybe pit early to force the other teams into the pits to maintain track position. knowing they'll likely struggle towards the end of the stint, but the risk with that is the cooling conditions usually cause graining of the tyres, which I'm pretty sure Lotus have been struggling a lot with in recent events, especially at Silverstone. But yeah, speaking of Lotus, I've seen a picture of Grosjean's car in the garage being prepped for the German Grand Prix, and it looked like he had the passive DRS system bolted on, and it looks like it'll be ready to be trialled by him, as it was only on Kimi's car for the British Grand Prix last weekend. Although it didn't seem to do much for him though, as it was the first event this season, I think, where he was actually out-qualified by Grosjean, but I'm sure there's more to it than just the passive DRS system being the cause, as Grosjean also had some pretty substantial updates on the car too, apparently. I think they had a much slimmer bodywork package around the rear of the car, which really helped the airflow to the rear of the car, which seemed to give them a bit of performance, which is nice to see. But other teams to take note of will be if Force India can continue to show great promise, if they'll finally be able to put their great pace of late to good use. They've really had good pace, especially with Di Resta, but unfortunately things on Saturday haven't really gone their way since, well, obviously Monaco they had the big mess up with the intermediate tyres in Q1, and then Canada again they had a big mess up, and then the disqualification in the British Grand Prix really put him on the back foot, but great performances on Sunday. I've seen him scramble into the points and pick up sort of what they could just about manage from those very low down positions. But if they can actually get Saturday right, it'll be very interesting to see how well they can perform on the Sunday higher up the grid, and maybe even take the fight to Red Bull and Mercedes, or that's probably a stretch, but especially Ferrari and Lotus they'll be looking for. But yeah, Toro Rosso also looking really good around Silverstone, so hopefully they'll be looking to take that form into the German Grand Prix. Verne, obviously one of the casualties of the tyre issues, but Ricciardo seemed to perform reasonably well, especially in qualifying, must be said. McLaren, well, they seem lost at the moment, don't they? Perez suffering 2 tyre failures throughout the weekend at Silverstone, while Jensen and the car itself just looked pretty poor, to be honest. But it was around this time last year they found some mega performance updates, so I'm really hoping they can get the car into at least the top 10 in quali on a regular basis in the near future. But I've not heard of any major updates coming to the car for this race, so I think it'll going to be another struggle for them. Obviously last season it was more of an update. They started off well and then had a bit of a slump around this point last season, and then some updates really brought them back into the championship fight. But it just seems like something deep down in McLaren, some fundamentals with the car just doesn't seem to be working, and it's causing havoc really with the rest of the car. So yeah, that's not looking too good for them, to be honest. Who else we got? We've got Williams. I think they're supposedly going to be running a special 600th race livery on the car, which I'm looking forward to seeing. Always nice to see teams mixing things up with a special livery of some kind. They, like McLaren, look pretty lost in terms of car performance, but they've got 2 drivers who will give it their all to drag the car out the field if it's at all possible. Sauber, really in the middle of nowhere, really, trying to scrape the odd point on a regular basis, but not showing anywhere near the same level of performance as last season. Shame for drivers like Hulkenberg, who sort of sidestepped from Force India to Sauber, and now it looks like that was sort of the wrong move, as Force India looked to have a much more better car, more performance in it compared to the Sauber this season. And Gutierrez also coming in for his first season looking to impress, but of course when you've got a car that's not really performing well, it's hard to do that. But he'll be looking to try and match his teammate if at all possible, to show that there is talent there, because Hulkenberg is rated a good driver by many people in the paddock and also by the fans, I think. So if Gutierrez can get anywhere near him, then it shows promise for him. But yeah, finally for the rest of the teams, we've got the 2 so-called backmarker teams, Marussia and Caterham. Both of them still making strides to get onto the back of the nearest teams to them, but more importantly, Chilton and Vandergaard need to find something this weekend after being horribly off the pace with their teammates at Silverstone. I think the gap was almost 2 seconds between them and their teammates, which is ridiculous, really, the amount of time to lose to someone in the same car as you. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare around the Nürburgring circuit this time out. Yeah, that pretty much wraps up the teams and stuff, so I suppose we just have to wait now and see what happens on the track over the next few days. I'm sure the tyres will once again be the focus for everyone involved, and rightly so, because what happened at Silverstone was unacceptable. But on track, I don't know, I'm predicting another fierce fight at the front between Mercedes and Red Bull, and I'm hopeful that Lewis can finally get some good luck and grab his first win for the Silver Arrows at their home Grand Prix. An interesting fact actually going into this weekend is that Vettel is actually yet to win an F1 race in the month of July, which coincidentally is the birth month of the German. So I'm sure he'll be a massive threat in the race as usual and be very hungry to make up for the DNF last weekend, which saw him, well, his lead in the championship was cut pretty massively by especially Alonso with that solid third place after what looked like it was going to be a pretty dreadful weekend for the driver and the Ferrari team, in fact, but they managed to salvage something. But for now, Vettel is still relatively comfortable at the top of the pile, even though if Mercedes can continue their recent run of form, who knows how long that may last. I think it's very important for the guys immediately behind Vettel, like the likes of Alonso, Raikkonen, and Rosberg and Hamilton now starting to show some real fighting spirit in the championship, to make sure that between now and the summer break after the Hungarian Grand Prix that they get closer to him in the championship rather than let him pull out more of a gap from now and that summer break. If that happens, I think it might well be game over for the championship, as the Red Bull and especially Vettel tend to be mega strong for the flyaway races towards the end of the season. But only time will tell, and right now we've got the German Grand Prix ahead of us around the Nürburgring, and it's bound to be a thrill and nothing else I can think of right now to talk about, so I'll go ahead and finish up this video. But of course, please leave comments below with anything you want to ask or talk about for the weekend, and I'll hopefully get back to you as soon as possible, which probably won't be too soon actually, as I'm going away on holiday for the weekend, so I'll be playing catch up from early next week, as I won't actually be able to watch the Grand Prix. But I'll make sure to watch that as early as I can next week and get some sort of review out, I hope, talking about the main points of the race. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this new type of video from me, and be sure to leave feedback on what you liked and what you want me to improve on for any future race previews or reviews or whatever. But for now, it's time for me to stop talking, let the cars do their thing on track, and I may be back some point next week for a review of what goes on at the German Grand Prix of 2013. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again soon. But it's bye for now.